I have always known that my life was haunted. It started when I was just a child, and I would wake up in the middle of the night to see a figure standing at the end of my bed. It was always the same figure, a tall man with a long, flowing cloak and a wide-brimmed hat. He never spoke, but I could feel his presence, like a weight pressing down on me. As I grew older, the hauntings only became more intense. Objects would move on their own, doors would slam shut, and I would hear whispers in the darkness. My parents tried to reassure me that it was all in my head, that there was nothing to be afraid of, but I knew better. I could feel the chill of the supernatural all around me. The worst incident happened when I was in my 20s. I was living alone in a small apartment, and one night I woke up to find the tall figure standing in my bedroom. This time, he spoke in a voice that was cold and menacing. "You cannot escape me," he said. "I will haunt you until the end of your days." After that, I knew that I had to do something. I went to see a psychic, who told me that I was being haunted by a powerful spirit who had attached itself to me when I was a child. The psychic performed a ritual to try and banish the spirit, but it only seemed to make things worse. The hauntings became more frequent and more intense until I was afraid to even be alone in my own home. I tried everything to get rid of the spirit. I consulted with ghost hunters, tried exorcisms, and even moved to a new city, but nothing seemed to work. The spirit was always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to make its presence known. Now, as I sit here writing this, I know that I am still haunted. The figure still appears to me in my dreams, and I can feel his cold breath on my neck. I know that I will never be free of him, that he will haunt me until the day I die. But I will never give up. I will continue to fight, to try and banish the spirit that has plagued me for so long. As the years passed, the hauntings continued to intensify. I would wake up in the middle of the night to find my room filled with a thick, black fog and the figure of the tall man standing at the end of my bed. Sometimes he would reach out to me, his long fingers stretching towards me like claws. I tried to ignore the hauntings, to go about my life as if nothing was wrong. But the spirit would not let me forget about it. It would follow me wherever I went, appearing in mirrors, whispering in my ear, and making objects move on their own. The hauntings had taken a toll on me. I had become withdrawn, afraid to go out in public, and paranoid that the spirit was watching my every move. I had lost my job, my friends, and even my family had started to distance themselves from me. One night, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I had read about a ritual that was supposed to banish evil spirits, and I was willing to try anything. I lit candles, drew a circle on the floor, and recited the incantation. For a few moments, it seemed as if the ritual had worked. The air around me grew lighter, and the fog dissipated. But then, the figure appeared again, more menacing than ever before. "You cannot banish me," it said, its voice echoing through the room. "I am a part of you now." I fell to my knees, feeling defeated. It was as if the spirit had won. But then, something strange happened. The spirit started to fade away, its form becoming more and more transparent. It was as if it was being pulled away, towards some other place. I watched in amazement as the spirit disappeared, and then, suddenly, everything was quiet. The room was empty, and I was alone. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. In the days that followed, I tried to make sense of what had happened. Had the ritual worked after all? Or was it something else entirely? I couldn't be sure. But one thing was certain, the hauntings had stopped. I started to rebuild my life, piece by piece. I got a new job, made new friends, and started to enjoy life again. But I knew that I would never forget the haunting, that it would always be a part of me. And that was okay, because now I was stronger than ever before, ready to face whatever challenges life threw my way. It all started on a dark and lonely road, one that I had driven on countless times before. But that night, something was different. The moon was hidden behind a thick layer of clouds, casting everything in a dull, gray light. I was tired from work and wanted nothing more than to get home and sleep. As I was driving, a sudden movement caught my eye. I saw a dark shape darting out from the bushes on the side of the road. I hit the brakes, but it was too late. I felt a sickening thud as my car collided with the animal. I slammed my foot on the brakes, bringing the car to a stop. My heart was pounding in my chest as I got out of the car and walked around to the front. There, lying in the middle of the road, was a dog. Its eyes were closed, and its chest was still. I felt a wave of guilt and sadness wash over me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to leave it there, but I didn't know how to move it. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to wrap it in a blanket and take it with me. I gently lifted the dog and placed it in the trunk of my car. As I got back in the driver's seat, I noticed a strange smell emanating from the trunk. It was a sickly sweet odor, like rotting meat. I tried to ignore it and focus on driving, but the smell was overwhelming. It made my stomach churn, and I felt bile rise up in my throat. When I got home, I was relieved to be out of the car. I opened the trunk and was hit by the stench once again. I quickly wrapped the dog in a plastic bag and buried it in my backyard. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. That night, I had the most vivid and terrifying nightmare of my life. I dreamt that I was walking in a dense forest, surrounded by twisted trees and tangled vines. I heard the sound of a dog barking in the distance, and I followed the sound. The barking grew louder and more urgent until I finally reached a clearing. There, in the middle of the clearing, was the dog I had hit earlier. It was alive, but its fur was matted with blood and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. It stared at me with an accusing look, and I felt a surge of guilt and fear. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. I tried to shake off the nightmare and go back to sleep, but I couldn't. It felt like something was watching me from the shadows, lurking just out of sight. I turned on the lights and sat up in bed, but the feeling didn't go away. It was like a cold hand gripping my heart. The next few days were a blur of strange occurrences. I would hear footsteps in the hallway when no one was there. Sometimes, I would wake up in the middle of the night to find my room freezing cold, even though the windows were closed and the heating was on. I tried to ignore it at first, but the haunting became more and more intense. One night, I woke up to find a tall figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was human-like in form, but had the face of a dog and a tail that swished back and forth. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, and I could feel its hot breath on my face. I was paralyzed with fear. Things only got worse from there. The figure would appear to me more and more often, each time getting closer and closer until I could feel its breath on my skin. It seemed to be trying to communicate something, but I couldn't understand what it wanted. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I was afraid to sleep, afraid to be alone in my own home. I tried to reach out to friends and family, but they all thought I was going crazy. They didn't believe in ghosts or hauntings. I decided to do some research on my own, and I discovered that the road where I had hit the dog was once the site of a terrible tragedy. A family had been killed there in a car accident, and their dog had been left behind, wandering the roads in search of its owners. I knew then that I had to do something to put the spirit to rest. I contacted a local shaman who was known for his ability to communicate with spirits. He agreed to help me, and we performed a ritual to release the dog's spirit. After that night, the haunting stopped. The figure never appeared to me again, and the strange occurrences in my home came to an end. I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders, and I finally found peace. But I will never forget the haunting experience I went through. It taught me that there are forces beyond our understanding, and that sometimes the only way to find peace is to face our fears head on. When I was a little kid, there was this man who always gave me candy. At first, I was hesitant to take it because my parents always warned me about accepting things from strangers. But this man was different. He had a friendly smile and a warm aura that made me feel safe around him. So I would eagerly take the candy and chat with him for a few minutes. As time went on, this man became a constant presence in my life. He would come around when I was alone and always have candy to offer me. Sometimes he would even take me on little adventures, like going to the park or exploring the woods behind my house. I loved spending time with him, and I never thought anything was wrong. However, as I grew older, things started to feel a bit off. This man still came around when I was alone, but he never showed me where he lived, and none of my family or friends had ever met him. It was like he only existed for me. He always seemed to know when I would be alone, and I would hear a knock at the door, and there he would be, with a smile. The thought of this man not being human has started to scare me. I don't know why I never thought about it before, but now I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. I want to make him go away, but I don't know how to start. After all, he has been a constant in my life for so long, and I have grown used to his presence. I try to avoid being alone as much as possible, but it seems like he always finds a way to track me down. I don't know how he does it, but it's like he has some kind of supernatural ability to sense when I'm alone and vulnerable. I know I need to do something about this man, but I'm scared of what might happen if I try to confront him or make him go away. It's like he has some kind of hold on me, and I don't know how to break it. All I know is that this man, who once seemed so friendly and kind, has now become a haunting presence in my life, and I don't know how to escape him.